So on thyroid hormones, we will learn about the chemistry of this thyroid hormone, how this thyroid hormone is synthesized, how this thyroid hormone is not seen. So all of you are see these slides? No, sir. Kamala Adhikari. So what is on display? Just a minute, okay. Documents folder. Okay, just a minute. Okay. Just share. Now, is it okay? Okay, so today I will learn about the thyroid hormones. On these thyroid hormones, you will know about the chemistry of this thyroid hormone and how this thyroid hormone is synthesized in thyroid gland. And after synthesized, how this thyroid hormone is transported to the target organ for its function, and how it is metabolized in the body. So apart from that, you will learn about the iodine metabolism, and this iodine is the one of the chief minerals so that is necessary for the thyroid hormone. So the chief element, so that is bound with a thyroid hormone, and later you learn about the this how this thyroid function test is performed. So what are the parameters so that is used as a thyroid function test. And apart from that, you will learn about this one pathophysiology. So what happens if the concentrations of thyroid hormone is beyond normal value. So first I will move on to the this one introductions of this. So you all of you know that this thyroid, it's a largest gland, endocrine gland. So it's the largest endocrine gland of the body, and this thyroid gland, it consists a number of these spherical follicle cells. So spherical follicles. So these spherical follicles, so they are composed so by a single layer of cuboidal epithelial cell which surround the follicle lumen. So this is the follicle, follicles, and on these follicles, it contains a single layer of this cuboidal epithelial cell, and which surround the follicle lumen. And this follicle lumen, it contains a homogeneous these colloids. So it is filled with a colloids, so which contains a protein called as a thyroglobulin. So thyroglobulin, and these follicles, so they are near, so they are bound with a this one. It is near with a this one blood vessels, and these blood vessels, so they transport amino acids and iodine to the these thyroid follicle cells for the synthesis of thyroid hormones. And after the synthesis of this thyroid hormone, then again it is circulated. So it is transported to the target tissues for its functions via the circulation, so via the blood vessels. So from blood vessels, it take these raw materials for the synthesis of this thyroid hormone, like this amino acids and iodine, and after formations of thyroid hormones, then again it transported back, it is back to the circulations, and from where it is transported to the target tissues for its function. So the thyroid hormone, so it comprise thyroid. While we are talking about this thyroid hormone, so it generally this thyroid hormone means the two hormones are considered as a thyroid hormones. So which is secreted by the this follicular cells. So that is a thyroxine, which is also called as a tetraiodothyronine and so triiodothyronine. So thyroid gland, it also synthesizes the other hormone. So especially these parafollicular cells of a thyroid gland, it produces the another hormone, that is a calcitonin. So which is related to the calcium homeostasis. So we'll discuss about the calcitonin during a this consecutive this class. So that means when we study about this calcium homeostasis, on that we'll discuss about the calcitonin. So on this lecture, we'll focus on this one, thyroxine and triiodothyronine. So this basic structure of so this while talking about the chemistry of these thyroid hormones, this both T4 and T3, they are iodinated tyrosines. And while talking about these thyroid hormones, the basic structure of this thyroid hormone is thyronine. So basic structure is thyronine, and this thyronine is made up of two phenyl rings. So two phenyl rings. Among that, one is combined with a alanine chain. And on this thyronine, this iodine is bound to form a T4 and T3. So for the formations of T4, this on this phenolic ring, so this iodine is bound with these third positions, fifth positions, and third prime positions, and the 5' position. So that is a tetraiodothyronine, or so you can see here, so tetraiodothyronine or thyroxine. So here you can see this is the thyronine molecules. So this thyronine molecule is made up of two molecules of phenols, so phenolic groups, and among that one is bound with a alanine chain. So this is the alanine chain. So on that, iodine is bound on the third positions, fifth positions, 3' positions, and the 5' positions. And similarly, in case of this triiodothyronine T3, so this the iodine is bound on the third positions, 5 positions, and the 3' positions. And in some tissues of our body, the another this thyroid hormone is also present, which is called as a reverse T3 or the inverted T3. So which contains the iodine on these third positions, 3' positions, and 5' positions. For the activity of these thyroid hormones, the iodine should be present on the third positions and the fifth positions. So that's why these T4 and T3, they both are the biologically active. If you look on the structures of this inverted T3 or reverse T3, what happened? This compound, it lack iodine on the fifth positions. So it, though in tissues, some of the tissues, it contains a reverse T3, but it is biologically inactive. So while talking about the this activity of this in between this T4 and T3, this T3 is a most potent biologically active thyroid hormone. So while comparing with the T4, it is 8 times more active. And in the body, this tetraiodothyronine or thyroxines can be converted to the triiodothyronine. by means of a deiodination. So deiodination means that is the removal of one iodine from a 5' of thyroxine to form a triiodothyronine, and this triiodothyronine is a most biologically active thyroid hormone, and the conversions of this tetraiodothyronine or thyroxine to the triiodothyronine, it is mostly takes place in the peripheral tissues. So on the target tissues of these peripheral tissues, these thyroxines, that is a tetraiodothyronine, is converted to the triiodothyronine by means of a deiodinase enzyme. And some of these thyroxines that can be converted to the triiodothyronine in thyroid gland itself also. So by means of the same mechanisms, that is a deiodinations. Apart from that, this triiodothyronine is also synthesized during a biosynthesis of thyroid hormone. So during a biosynthesis of a thyroid hormone in a thyroid gland, so on that times this the ratio of synthesis is, that is the 10:1 among these thyroxine and the triiodothyronine. So while we see the compositions of this T4 and T3 in a thyroid gland, so thyroid gland, it contains a majority thyroxines, that is the tetraiodothyronine. So the ratio is 10:1. So that means so on in thyroid gland, if it contains 10 molecules of thyroxines, then only 1 molecules of triiodothyronine is synthesized. So however, the sum of the this triiodothyronine, it can be formed by the deiodinations of tetraiodothyronine in both mostly in the peripheral tissues and in sometimes thyroid gland also. So now we'll move on to the biosynthesis of a thyroid hormone. So these are thyroid hormones. So they are, so by name itself, we know that this thyroid hormone must be synthesized in a thyroid gland. So for the synthesis of this thyroid gland, so it requires 2 substrates. So thyroglobulin, so that is a protein, and this thyroglobulin is a protein, so which contains more predominantly tyrosine molecules or tyrosine residues, and on that tyrosine residues, this iodine get bound, so that is the organifications to form a thyroid hormone, so that is a T4 and T3. So thyroglobulin, so it's a thyroglobulin is a glycoproteins which is dimeric in nature. So that means it contains a 2 polypeptide chains, so which is a homodimeric. So homodimeric means that is these 2 polypeptide chains are similar to each other, and these homodimeric glycoproteins have a molecular weight of around approximately 660,000 kilodalton, and each molecules of this thyroglobulin contains around less than 140 tyrosine residues. So that is from 123 to 140. So in average that 135 tyrosine residues, and among these 135 tyrosine residues, up to 40 of these tyrosines become iodinated, but no more than 8 to 10 of these iodinated tyrosines, they are proceed to the active hormone. So that is the hormogenesis. So formations of thyroid hormone. So this thyroglobulin, though it contains around 140 tyrosine residues, so nearly 40 tyrosine molecules, they become iodinated, and from that hardly 8 to 10 these active hormones, so that is these thyroxines can be synthesized. So thyroglobulin, synthesis of what is thyroglobulin? So thyroglobulin gene, so the gene which is responsible for the synthesis, which is which encodes the thyroglobulin protein. So that is localized on a long arm of chromosome 8. So which contains approximately 8,500 nucleotides. So that encodes the pre-thyroglobulin protein monomers. And this pre-thyroglobulin protein monomers, it contains thyroglobulin. So this pre-thyroglobulin protein, so it contains both this thyroglobulin as well as the this 19 amino acid sequence containing this signal peptide. And these expressions of this thyroglobulin gene is regulated by a TSH. So that is the thyroid stimulating hormone, so which is synthesized and secreted by a anterior pituitary gland. So all the steps of this thyroid gland, thyroid hormone biosynthesis, that is regulated by a thyroid stimulating hormone from an anterior pituitary gland. So after the formations of mRNA, so thyroglobulin mRNA by the these transcriptions of thyroglobulin gene, this thyroglobulin mRNA, it is translated by ribosomes on the rough endoplasmic reticulum of a thyroid acinar cell. So during a biosynthesis of this thyroglobulin, like these other proteins, which is targeted to the different this one part. So like that, it is also synthesized along with the this signal peptide. And when this protein it enters to the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, then signal peptide is removed, and on the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, this glycosylations is takes place. So that means additions of these carbohydrates on this newly growing protein. And after these formations, after glycosylated, these proteins, so that is the thyroglobulin, so they are packed into the seminal, they are transported to the Golgi apparatus and packed into the vesicles. And on the vesicles, this thyroglobulin, they form a dimer. So during a synthesis of this thyroglobulin, it is synthesized as a single polypeptide, and on these vesicles of Golgi apparatus, it collaborate to form a dimers. So after formations of these dimers, then these vesicles, so which contains a dimer thyroglobulin, so they are fused with the cell's apical basement membrane, from which they are released into the follicular lumen. And on follicular lumen, these iodines, they bind with the tyrosine residues of this thyroglobulin to synthesize a thyroid hormone, that is a T4 and T3. So you can see on this figure also. So from these blood vessels, these amino acids, so they enter to the thyroid epithelial cell. So on this thyroid epithelial cell, with the help of this thyroglobulin mRNA, so this thyroglobulin is synthesized by a ribosomes present in the this rough endoplasmic reticulum. So after the synthesis of these proteins, they enters to the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, where these carbohydrates they bound with this newly formed protein to form a glycated protein. After formations of glycated protein, now they are transferred to the Golgi apparatus, and on Golgi apparatus, what happened? These proteins they are packed into the this secretory vesicles, exocytic vesicles, and on that exocytic vesicles, these thyroglobulin proteins they form a dimer. So after that, what happened? These vesicles they are released to the follicular lumen. So and this, due to the lysis of these vesicles, now it releases the thyroglobulin, and this thyroglobulin they get iodinated, and the source of iodine is from a circulations, and this iodine is get from a dietary food. So now this iodine metabolism. So another substrate which is necessary for the synthesis of this thyroid hormone is, that is the iodine. So this iodine is a key structural component of a thyroid hormone. And the thyroid gland incorporates in a thyroid hormones iodide that mainly comes as a inorganic iodide from the diet. So on diet, generally this iodine is present in a drinking water, this fish, cereals, vegetable, and iodinated salt. So especially the good source for iodine is, that is the seafoods, and the plants, the vegetables, and the another plant products which is grown in a mountains. So they lack a iodine because the soil of the these mountainous sites, so they are poor in a iodine content, so that the vegetables and the plant products which is from this mountainous side, it have a poor iodine contents, and that may be the reasons that like this Himalayan countries like in Nepal, this iodine deficiency is more, and to prevent that iodine deficiency, the government recommended to use a iodinated salt. So on this iodinated salt, what happened? This salt is fortified with a iodine, so which prevents the iodine deficiency. Daily requirements of iodine. For daily requirements, the adult it requires 150 microgram. Pregnancy and lactating women, it requires 200 microgram, and children it requires around 90 microgram. So on average or normally, so every people should get more than 100 microgram of iodine should be supplied for the normal normal functioning of a thyroid hormones. So that means for the normal scientists to prevent for the normal functions of the thyroid hormones, so the persons should get more than 100 micrograms of the iodine per day. So when the people is supplied less than this 100 microgram of iodine, then slowly it goes to the this iodine deficiency. It can causes the this iodine deficiency symptoms. So which we'll discuss on later slides. So absorptions and distributions. So this ingested this dietary iodine, so that is converted into the iodide in the stomach and absorbed mainly from small intestine, that is from a duodenum, and transported in plasma in loose attachment with a plasma protein. So these iodines, so which is present in dietary foods, so they are converted to the iodide in a stomach, and after that it is absorbed to the circulations via the duodenum, and on circulations this iodine it is bound with a plasma protein for a transport. And some of the iodine that can also be absorbed from lungs, outer mucosal membrane, and skin. So the normal level of iodine in a plasma is less than 0.2 microgram per deciliter. So from circulations, the 1/3 of this iodine, so that is uptake by a thyroid gland, and remaining 2/3 of this dietary iodine, so that is excreted via the kidney. So normally about this 1/3 of this dietary iodine is taken up by the thyroid gland, and remaining that this 2/3 of this dietary iodine is excreted by kidney, and because of that, this iodine content of the urine is the best marker for the iodine content of the body. So that is about 7 to 80% of ingested this iodine is excreted by kidney. So small amounts are also excreted through a bile, skin, and saliva. And in a lactating mother, some amount of iodine is also found in a milk, excreted via the milk. And the uptake of this iodine by the thyroid gland is stimulated by a thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. So on overall, the TSH, it stimulates all the activities related with the thyroid hormone biosynthesis. So body contains about 25 to 30 milligrams of these iodines, and among that, this thyroid contains 10 to 15 milligrams. So that is the most. So thyroid is a organ where the maximum iodine is stored. So iodine content. So deficiency manifestations. So the deficiency manifestation, that the iodine deficiency is defined as a daily iodine intake less than 100 microgram. So when iodine intake is less than 50 microgram per day, a normal sized thyroid cannot sustain adequate hormone productions, so with resulting a gland enlargement, so which is called as a goiter, and ultimately hypothyroidism. So in adult, when the person is unable to take sufficient amounts of iodine, then the size of thyroid it cannot sustain adequate hormone production, so with resulting a gland enlargement, which is called as a goiter. So iodine deficiency in adult lead to the goiter. So dietary iodine deficiency are especially devastating for the developing fetus and the children. So these who require thyroid hormone for normal neurologic development and the growth. So this iodine is necessary for the developing fetus and as well as in the children. If the pregnant women have a deficient on iodine deficiency, it shows the iodine deficiency on a child, and the term which is used to show that this iodine deficiency on children is called as a cretinism. So cretinism is it is characterized by a mental retardations, slow body development, dwarfism, and characteristic these facial structures. So failure to the growth of a children. So you have studied this dwarfism. So that is the failure to growth of the children is during this one growth hormone deficiency also, and this cretinism. So that is, so that also you have studied on that also, and this cretinism it can be seen in case of a iron deficiency also in the children. So this thyroid hormone is necessary for the development, the growth of a children and the fetus. So where there is the failure or deficiency of iodine, then that may lead to the cretinism. So that is the failure to growth of a body. So now we'll move on to the steps of iodine incorporations in thyroid gland for synthesis of thyroid hormone. So that is the steps of these different steps. So that is involved in a thyroid hormone synthesis. So first one, that is a iodine trapping. So iodine trapping is that is the active transport of iodide across the basement membrane into the thyroid cell. So from blood to the thyroid cell is called as a iodine trapping. So after the uptake of iodine by a thyroid cell, now this iodine is oxidized so that it become a active iodide, and this active iodide is finally bound with a phenyl ring of this tyrosine residues that is present in a thyroglobulin, so which is called as a organifications. So organifications mean that is the this bounding of so iodinations of tyrosine residues of thyroglobulin. So next step is that is the coupling. So that is the linking pairs of iodotyrosines molecules within thyroglobulin to form the iodothyronines. So that is T3 and T4. So these iodotyrosines molecules. So two molecules of iodotyrosines, they link each other to form a iodothyronines. So which is the process is called as a coupling. So next one, that is the pinocytosis and the proteolysis of thyroglobulin. So this thyroglobulin, so after formations of these iodothyronines and so these iodotyrosines on the follicular lumens, so these are released into the circulations. So next step, so that fourth in overall this fourth step that is also called as the storage and secretions of the thyroid hormones. And fifth, that is the deiodinations of iodotyrosines. So all the iodotyrosine molecules which is formed in a thyroid gland is not coupled to form a thyroid hormones, and those iodotyrosines which is not able to couple to form a this uh, iodothyronine, these iodotyrosines, so from that these iodines are removed, so which process is called as a deiodinations, and these free iodines are again reutilized by a thyroid gland for the synthesis of the thyroid hormones. So which we call as a salvage of iodine. And as we uh, explained, so we discussed on the earlier slides, so what happened? Some of the thyroxine hormones, they are deiodinized to form a triiodothyronine. Though most number of these thyroxines, they are converted to the triiodothyronine in the peripheral tissues. So some of these thyroxines, they can be converted to triiodothyronine in the thyroid gland itself by the same enzymes, that is the deiodinase enzyme. uh, we are discussing uh, on the steps of this thyroid hormone biosynthesis. So there are different 6 steps of this thyroid hormone biosynthesis. Among that, the first one is this iodine trapping. So second one is that is the organifications. So generally these organifications, that the two these headings are includes. So one is that is the oxidations of iodine, and next one is that is the iodinations of tyrosine, so which is generally called as a organifications. And after that, the third one, this another one is that is a coupling. So coupling process. So coupling of iodotyrosine. So which is necessary for the synthesis of this iodothyronine. So that is a T4 and the T3. So after formations of this T3 and T4 on the thyroglobulin, so now then what happened? So these thyroglobulins are released via the exocytosis or the pinocytosis, and then from there there's a lysosomal enzyme, so which releases the this which lyses the thyroglobulin, from which free iodothyronins and the iodotyrosines into the circulations, and the remaining these iodotyrosines, so which is not able to form a iodothyronin, so from there these iodines are removed via the these deiodination enzymes, and this free iodine is again reutilized for the synthesis of thyroid hormones. And some of the this T4 and T3, some of the T4 can be converted to the T3 in a thyroid gland itself via the deiodinase enzyme. So you can see the process on the this slide on the figure also, so which we have discussed. So here in so this exocytosis, pinocytosis, and the segregation. So that means this thyroglobulin, so which is after the formations. So that is after the formations of this so iodothyronine and the iodotyrosines, so which is bound with the thyroglobulin molecule. So they are released, they are entered to the this cell itself from a follicular lumen, and on follicular lumen it is intact with a lysosomes, and these lysosomal enzymes they degrade the thyroglobulin molecules, from which these iodotyrosines and this iodothyronine, so that is the thyroid hormones, they are released, and these iodotyrosines, they are these deiodinized, and again this the iodine which is free from these iodotyrosines, they are again reutilized for the synthesis of new thyroid hormones. So now we'll discuss, we'll learn these steps one by one. So first one is that is the iodine trapping. And this transport of iodine from circulation to the thyroid gland, it is also called as a trapping, because the transport of this iodine from circulation to the thyroid gland is it's a highly remarkable, since the concentrations of iodine in a thyroid gland is 30 times higher than the iodine concentration in a circulations. So from lower concentration to the higher concentration, the transport of iodine from lower concentration to the higher concentrations is a very remarkable process, and so that the process is called as a iodine trapping. So this is a trapping of iodine. So this iodide, so which is present in the circulations, that moves into the thyroid gland against a electrical gradient and against a concentration gradient, and so which require with this process, it's require energy, and this energy is supplied by a sodium potassium ATPase. So the transport of iodine from circulation to the thyroid gland, it depends upon the activity of the sodium potassium ATPase, so which provide the energy. And there is the specific transporter protein is present on the basement membrane of a thyroid cell, so which is called as a iodide pump or a NIS, that is a sodium iodine synthetase protein. And this sodium iodine synthetase, so that is where this protein is present on the basement membrane of a thyroid cell, so which transports this iodine from circulation to the thyroid gland with the help of the sodium potassium ATPase. And this transport of this iodine from circulation to the thyroid gland is inhibited by anions such as pertechnetate, thiocyanate, and perchlorate. So this pertechnetate, thiocyanate, and perchlorate, so they compete with the iodine for the transport. So that is for the carrier mechanism. Since the entire process, it requires energy, and those compounds which inhibits the synthesis of ATP and the sodium pump also inhibits the transport of iodine to the thyroid gland, so such as the cyanide or dinitrophenol and euven. So they can also inhibit the transport of iodine from circulation to the thyroid gland. Though the inhibitions of this cyanide or dinitrophenol and the euven is indirect because it inhibits the this sodium potassium ATPase. So when this compound inhibits the sodium potassium ATPase enzymes, then it do not able to provide the energy which is necessary for the synthesis of which is necessary for the transport of iodine from circulations to the thyroid gland. And this iodide after from the basement membrane from the circulations to the this one epithelial cell is helped by the this one this sodium iodine synthetase. So after entering to the this epithelial cell, these iodides move to the follicular lumen via the another channel, so which is present in the apical membrane of the cell called pendrin. So from circulation to the cell, for the movement of this iodine from circulation, that is from the blood to the cell, is helped by it require a NIS, that is a sodium iodide synthetase, and from cell to the follicular lumen, it require another carrier protein called as a pendrin, so which is present in the apical membrane. So you can see on this structures also. So this is the thyroid cell. So from circulations to the thyroid cell, it require a sodium iodine synthetase, and this sodium iodine synthetase protein, it can be inhibited by these anions. And towards the follicular this lumen, this iodine is transferred via the pendrin. So these pendrins are present on this apical membrane, so which is responsible for a transport of this iodide to the follicular lumen. And this apical membrane of thyroid cell, it also contains a enzyme called as a thyroperoxidase, and this thyroperoxidase enzymes, it is responsible for the oxidations of this iodide to the active iodine, so which we'll discuss on later slide. So oxidation of iodide. So in the cell colloid interface is oxidized by this thyroperoxidase. So thyroperoxidase is the enzyme, so which molecular weight is around 60,000 kilodalton, and it requires a hydrogen peroxide, and this hydrogen peroxide it is acts as the source of oxygen, and this hydrogen peroxide is supplied by NADPH dependent enzyme system. So for the actions of thyroperoxidase, it requires a H2O2, which is supplied by NADPH dependent enzyme system. And this thyroperoxidase require H2O2 because this H2O2 it acts as the oxygen source. And this enzyme thyroperoxidase is present at the apical cell membrane. And this, like the order steps, this step is also stimulated by a thyroid stimulating hormone. And this step, so this thioperoxidase is inhibited by this anti-thyroid drugs such as thiourea, this thiouracil, and metimazole. So iodination of tyrosine. So after the oxidations of iodine, now this iodide is converted to the active iodine, and this active iodine is transferred to the tyrosine residues, and these tyrosine residues are generally present on the thyroglobulin protein. And this transfer of this bounding of this iodine to the tyrosine residues of this thyroglobulin is catalyzed by the same thioperoxidase enzyme. So thioperoxidase enzyme is necessary for the two functions. So one is for the this one oxidations of iodine, and next one is that is the organifications of iodine. So that means the bounding of iodine to the tyrosine residue of thyroglobulin. So the process of iodination, so that is the bounding of iodine to the tyrosine residues in a thyroglobulin, occurs first in the third positions of aromatic nucleus, forming a monoiodotyrosine. And the second second iodine is inserted to the monoiodotyrosine. So fifth positions of the monoiodotyrosines to form a diiodotyrosine. So first, this iodine is enters to the third positions of aromatic nucleus to form monoiodotyrosine. So after the formations of monoiodotyrosines, the second iodine is second iodine is inserted to the fifth positions of a monoiodotyrosines to form a diiodotyrosine. And the process of the binding of iodine to the this aromatic nucleus of tyrosine called as a organification. So next one is that is the coupling of iodotyrosines. So the bounding of this iodine to the tyrosine residues of thyroglobulin is called as the organifications, and which forms these iodotyrosines such as MIT and the DIT. So MIT means that is the monoiodotyrosine, and DIT means that is a diiodotyrosine. So after formations of these iodotyrosines, and now these iodotyrosines molecules, they linked each other to form a iodothyronine. So which entire process is called as a coupling of iodotyrosines. So coupling reactions. And these coupling reactions that is also catalyzed by these thioperoxidase enzymes. And this is believed to be an intramolecular process involving oxidations of two iodotyrosine residues brought into the proximity by the tertiary and the quaternary structures of thyroglobulin and their linkage as a quinol ether intermediate and splitting of the quinol ether to form an iodothyronine. So you can see this on the figure also. So it's also. So this one is the DIT molecules and next one is also a DIT molecules. So with the when these molecules they are catalyzed by the thioperoxidase enzymes, now it generates a radicals. So radicals, and by the formations of the radicals by the non-enzymatic way, what happened? There is the formations of quinol ether intermediates and splitting of these quinol ether intermediates, so which is called as a rearrangements, so which leads to the formations of these iodothyronines. So iodotyrosine molecules after splitting it form a iodothyronine. So iodothyronine means, so it is a compound which contains two phenyl groups, and on that two phenyl groups one phenyl group is bound with a alanine. So within the thyroglobulin molecules, two molecules of diiodothyronine when coupled each other, it forms a tetraiodothyronine or thyroxine, so which is called as a T4. And when it is monoiodotyrosines, MIT, it coupled with another molecule of diiodotyrosine molecule, it form a T3, that is the triiodothyronine. And these thiocarbamide drugs, including methimazole, so carbimazole, and propyl thiouracils, so which are the competitive inhibitors of a thioperoxidase enzyme. So we'll conclude today's lecture up to the this slide. So up to this we have studied these different 4 steps of a thyroid hormone biosynthesis. So that is a iodine trapping, so oxidations of iodine, organifications, and coupling of iodotyrosines to form a iodothyronine. So remaining these slides will be discussed on a next class. So thank you for your participations. So if you have any questions regarding to the today's this one.